Forward to this. All right. Well, hi, Mike. How are you today? It was super fun to be in your classroom. Middle school math. You were absolutely rocking it with those middle schoolers. How do you think your lesson went overall?
Well, I'm a very confident teacher, and I feel so comfortable with the routines and procedures that I have in my room. I really felt like I got to sort of show off, some of the things that I do best, while you were there, and I felt pretty confident that the students had achieved their learning outcomes for the day.
Yeah, you mentioned the words confident and comfortable and routines and procedures. Can you say a little bit more about that? Because I also noted those things in my observation. I think you are really confident in not only your like pedagogical teaching, but then how you build your relationships with your students. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, you know me. I've been here for, 12 years at this point, and here we are in another summative cycle. I always wonder why, we have to keep going through these things, but it's whatever. I definitely um try to make sure that like at each stage of my lesson, my students know what's expected of them. I have a variety of like routines that I practice with them for sharing with their groups, for answering questions, for using their materials. Like you'll have noticed, the hand signals and the verbal cues that I give them, right? You'll see the ways that they know how to interact with each other and do like their pair shares where they'll share with their partner and then they hear the signal and then they'll switch partners. And obviously we call it teaching each other, because that's really what they're doing. I'm not the sage on the stage. I'm the guide on the side. They're teaching each other. Um, a well organized, well run classroom is the most important thing. And if I like let go for like even like a minute, those seventh graders, they're just kind of like get totally squirrely and you know, and I don't want that. So
Well, I think you named it perfectly, Mike. I'm here we're all here for students, and that's really kind of my role in this, to really be leaders together. And that's my hope for this conversation. I had collected two kind of pieces of data, one of them being around the turn and talk, and then one of them being around just like your overall teacher questions and how that relates to supporting students in like mathematical thinking. So
awesome.
I'm going to give you that data here if you just want to
Mm,
take a look at that. And then
mhm.
let me know how you kind of want to guide this conversation. If you want to talk about like the turn and talk, or if you want to talk about like teacher questioning. And this is your opportunity to um, do what you need or do what you need with this conversation. So I'm just here to support with whatever way you want to go.
Let's talk about the turn and talk, and to whatever extent you could also talk me through the data that you collected, will be super helpful.
Yeah, so I used some low inference data when I was observing you in your classroom. I noted that students in this lesson turned and talked 10 times. So you are really offering students that ability to connect with their peers. I could really see that the routines and procedures that you had mentioned at the beginning of this conversation were strong. And then also I was thinking about student relationships. Your students feel like they belong and there's that sense of community, which you have really set up. One of the things that I was thinking about is um, your turn in talks. I had noticed, if you look at my data, they really average for about, I think, about 9 seconds. I just think about those turn in talks and how do you work to build, or how do you know how long your turn in talk should be to really hear all student voices? That's kind of my wondering.
Well, mostly I would say like that's just an attention span kind of decision. I know that like, you know, if it like goes much longer than, I mean, it's interesting that you counted them as like nine, because like my goal is 10, so like it might have, pushed it a little, short like that day, but like 10 seconds is my intention. Beyond that, like I just don't think that they're um able developmentally uh to really stay regulated for much longer than that with their partners. They'll start talking about like what little boo-boo they got at the vending machine the other day, or like the latest episode of Skibbity Toilet. So like I'm just trying to keep them like engaged in the material, and I know that 10 seconds is probably the max, that they can really handle. I don't know, like, and I'm sure that you listened to them and saw that like they were able to, say what they needed to say and then, turn to their partner with like no dysregulation at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I mean, we're working with middle school students here, and that's going to happen. One of the things that I can think about with turn and talks is how you did a really nice job circulating the classroom. And so
Mm,
I guess how does that circulating the classroom really help you like determine how long the turn and talks? Like, are you listening for a certain thing? Are you going to a certain student? How does that kind of influence
yeah.
your turn in talks?
It's a good question. Mostly I'm just making sure they're on task. And if they're talking about math, then I know they're on task, and when I circulate like during those few seconds, like and again, because they're short, I try to make sure that I'm in a different spot because, in 10 seconds I can't like be at every table, and be hearing what they're saying. So um I know that like they're talking about math during that time and not getting off task.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's a really valid point. One of the things that I'm going to do, that I will give you when I leave here is just some other strategies. I think you're doing a really nice job with getting students to talk, but I'm curious to know what other things you can do in the classroom to really support mathematical thinking. And maybe it's not that turn and talk. Maybe it's stand up, go find someone across the room to help with some of that movement. I know that takes a little bit of time. But I think so, like some movement breaks within the lesson, especially because it's 60 minutes long, could really support some of your um, kind of that off-task behavior that sometimes we see with middle school students. Have you tried anything like that in your classroom before or in a lesson, and how did that go?
You know, I'll be honest with you, that I'm the kind of person who, you know, kind of arrived at my set of routines and procedures and feel really comfortable with them, and that's just kind of how I do it. Now, that being said, um, if I really, am striving to like be my best, that like taking an opportunity to uh innovate a little bit, and mix it up feels like something I'd be open to doing. And look, and let me just ask you, part of me maybe is a little anxious about, that class is so big. I've got like 38 in there, and I love them all and they're all great and I have good relationships with them, but like, and it's right after lunch, you know. So that's a little bit tricky too. Like, did you think that like the 10 seconds was too short?
No, I don't think the 10 seconds was necessarily too short. I think you were doing a really great job of reading your classroom and your student needs. My curiosity with my data really came from, what other ways and what other ways can you have students talk with each other? And, maybe they do need to get up and move for 2 of those seconds, and maybe they only need 8 seconds. So just thinking about that. Um, where just thinking about that kind of structure around student talk, I'm just curious about what other ways you can start to in those other instructional strategies that
Yeah.
support student talk, if that makes sense.
Well, I think that a way that I can imagine doing this, and this is something I've seen elsewhere, right? Like they have their ones and twos at their tables, right? Um, like I think I could probably also arrange them in like letter groupings, which are like not at their table, right? So like every couple of times they like get up and go talk with their like letter partners, right? Um, and then I've seen in another way of doing it is, like different groupings where like, I could also give them like a color group where like, and that group might be larger than just the pairs, right? And that might also allow a little bit of movement and be a little bit more of a group setting, like a bigger group setting for turn-in talks. So, like for example, they're in at their tables and their seats with their partners for 6 weeks at a time. And they like always know when that like 6 week deadline is coming for like when we're doing a seat change. And I was like, oh, Mr. Lepresti, like, are we changing seats? And it's like phases of the moon. They know when it's about to come. So they do feel a little, maybe tired of their kind of current desk partners, at a certain point. So I suppose like thinking of a couple of different novel ways to kind of keep them mixed up and interacting with each other, like, during those 6 week phases, like might kind of lower their sort of level of like burnout with their desk partners, a little, yeah, we'll lower the burnout.
Yeah, so what I really hear you saying is that you want to kind of um, just incorporate ways for students to interact with other students within your classroom. You name some letter partners and color groups. And with those, you can really strategically still plan who the students are going to be. So you can think
Yeah.
ahead of time, like, who are the kids that work together well? Who are the kids that don't? But it still allows students to move around versus just some like random generator. So I really appreciate your thinking behind that, Mike. And I'm looking forward to coming into your classroom again. And like I said, I'll also provide some other class like talk structures, and I'll send those to you over email. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect. Thank you, Ms. Anderson, for your feedback today.
Thank you. All right. And here is my Amanda. We'll
It's a,
call you. You're muted.
oh yeah.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Here's the principal's evaluation. So, I thought you did fantastic at the beginning, just greeting him and doing that, for sure, and then creating that relationship. Um, I thought your type of feedback was largely helpful, so proficient for sure, and then erring on distinguished, um, going in for asking for the teachers' improvements and stuff like that on themselves. So kind of changing that mindset where they would ask the um, leading questions. I thought that was good. For evidence, you had a lot of evidence that went with it, and I think that was fantastic. Plus, not just saying it, but then using like, "Hey, I've taught middle schoolers too," and kind of relating it to that. This is a strategy that I've used. I think that's really relatable for teachers to do. For the next steps of improvement, you kind of this is the only place that I would say that you need to say, like, "Hey, what do you think our next step should be?" And that I've learned the hard way because I've done it like your way, Ashley. And just giving autonomy to the teacher would be I mean, that's the only suggestion I have for
I
that.
know
But
I had
otherwise,
one of my questions was like based on today's lessons, like what's your next immediate
yep.
instructional
Mhm.
step? And then I like didn't know how to get there. So that
Well,
was
and
what
you
I
you
that was what
tried.
I wanted to do, but then I
Yeah.
know my teacher kept talking. No, I'm kidding. But I know that was my like highlight question that I wanted to end with. And thank you for giving me that feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, me
I
talk
mean,
too much. Imagine that. But I would say that like I definitely felt like you were kind of asking me for to generate the ideas
mhm.
for like what I might change, and I felt like that for sure. It sort of along those lines of next steps, and you did get in your like I forget exactly, but like there was a like I'm gonna send you this kind of thing after we talk kind of moment, and I so I saw you trying to get to that too.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you offered a lot of reflective thinking for the teacher, which I liked in some of your questions. Like, can you tell me more about that? Can you explain that? What is your, you know, when you asked about the wait time, you're like, what's your reasoning behind circulating the room and, what are you listening for? So I think you were leading up to it. That is like the only thing that I noticed, Ash. I'm honestly. Um, and then next steps, you said that you would follow up. So I think that you were, proficient in that. And then just moving into the distinguished also. Um, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Jahari and how they want to use it. So this is where I'm struggling a little bit to place you on. I think that you're in proficient for sure. No evidence was mentioned on why, and then distinguished because you did offer evidence and data, and you did give them like quantitative data too, like your wait times were 9 seconds. Is that on purpose? Like that kind of thing, and let's look at that kind of thing. So I would think that you're in the distinguished for that. Wherever that puts you in the window, I don't know. I think that's where I'm struggling. So I don't, this is, have you guys ever seen this window before? This class?
No.
Outside of, yeah, these
It's open to
circumstances,
self, blind self, hidden
no.
self, and known self,
So would I be
Information about you that,
open to self information about you that both you and the others know?
which is that's where I was thinking, like, hey, I've been in this too. Like, I know this is a strategy I've
well,
used when I've taught middle school.
um, there was a little bit of like
What quadrant was it?
blind self from my end with like, I was trying to play up a little bit of the like, you know, I have to have them only do 10 seconds because they're going to dysregulate, which is a little bit of a, you know, band-aid for anxiety about classroom management and low expectations and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I was trying to play a little bit of that.
But I felt like you guys were mostly in the open
Mm.
self.
Yeah,
Like there
I would
wasn't
say
much,
so.
like there was nothing you were trying to hide. There was no like Ashley was like, I got you on this, Mike. That kind
Yeah,
of thing.
right.
Like there was no like, but this is what I saw. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like no opinions, nothing like that. It was all like very open and reflective, I thought. So I thought you did great, Ashley.
Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah,
great.
Okay, should
awesome.
we do the next?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to start a new recording or?
We can keep going. I'll just,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, so Mike, do you just want to rotate out? Ashley, you be the evaluator of the principal. I'll be the
Well,
teacher, and then Mike, you be
no,
the,
hold
or
on. What
no,
what time are we reconvening? Is it 11:10?
11:10.
Okay.
So we have time for one more.
All right.
Quickly.
Sure. What do you want? Wait, how do we want to rotate? I feel like Ashley should be teacher,
Sure.
Okay.
right? And then I can be evaluator of principal,
You're
and
going to
Amanda, you be
evaluate me?
principal. Yeah.
Yep, sure.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Hey, Miss Ashley, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
That's good. How's the kiddo? Is he doing well?
Oh, he's almost 2. You know how that is. It's just crazy around here.
Exactly. So I came into your classroom, watched you during your math lesson. What are your thoughts on how that went? I'd like to hear what you have to say about it because you obviously got my feedback from the I sent it to you earlier. So I just want to hear what you thought about it.
Yeah, I think this is a class that I have kind of struggled with this year. It seems like we're in a better place now, but I think I've had to really slow down with what I've expected from my students just because their proficiency as far as their math wasn't there at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
So I've really slowed down with how I have my classroom set up to be
Mhm.
ensuring that I'm meeting all my students' needs.
Excellent. Do you feel like during the observation, do you feel like the kiddos were engaged, all that stuff? They were with you where you wanted them to be?
Yeah, it's hard. This group is just a really needy group of students.
Okay.
Um, I am trying to do different things with them, but sometimes it just seems like we have to do the same kind of thing to build a routine. Like we're doing our warm up, then we're doing like um our homework corrections, then we're going into our lesson, and then we kind of discuss, and it seems kind of very routine based. Um,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what I have found to be successful with this group in particular.
I think did you have to at the beginning of the school year, did you have to do a lot of front end loading when you went into that? Because it seems like you did a lot of practice. They were on top of it when you asked them to transition in between those routines.
Yeah, I think just knowing that it's like seventh graders, it's the end of the day. So I'm trying to find ways to really just
Hmm.
and keep that routine and consistency. It's like we're gonna do these three things in our lesson,
Hmm.
being just really upfront about what that looks like.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Um, So thinking about like here's what I saw. I'll go into that. I think you did amazing with affirming and the turn and talks and everything like that. And then the purpose of the lesson and how you were prepared, your planning was spot on. Do you feel the same way, or did you have any comments that you wanted to put in with that?
No, I thank you for recognizing that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
an area that I've also been trying to work on. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I was noticing, and I know that I know some of the students within the class and just their learning styles and stuff like that, it was the only thing was the wait time. And I just had questions surrounding that. When you were during the turn and talks or letting the kiddos answer the questions and stuff like that, it seemed a bit rushed to me, but that could be just me because I come in with a different lens, and this is just a snippet of time. So I don't want you to think that I'm judging you. I just want you to be open and honest and let me know what you think that if the wait time was good, if there was something we could improve on there, if that's an area you want to look at.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I want to do is I want to
Hmm.
ask like a variety of questions, and that's a goal
Okay.
of mine. I also like just don't want students to just be strictly doing math and like rote
Hmm.
memorization. So how do I build those like that kind of community within our class that's collaborative? Um,
Hmm.
I think I asked a lot of questions in the lesson. Did you have any information about that at all?
I just was curious about the wait time. Like you have
Oh,
some ML learners, you might have some special education learners in there at that time. So I just want to make sure that we are just slowing it down just a skosh to let those kiddos work and work it out for themselves then too. That's the only thing that I was asking about.
yeah, at times it just feels like I like have all this content to do and like
Hmm.
there's never enough time. And it's like we have to hit all
Totally
these
agree.
things in a
Hmm.
lesson, and it's like it's a lot, and it feels
Uh-huh.
at times it's just like the district giving us our curriculum that we need to get done. It's like everything is planned out. So
Yep.
I'm kind of really struggling with the fact that like I'm supposed to meet my students' needs, and the district is telling me
Hmm.
that I need to teach these things. And then because of that, it's like, yeah, I'm probably asking a lot of questions, and then the wait time isn't long enough. And so how do I balance that? Um, I honestly just try to read the room, but I
Hmm.
probably know at times I mentioned my students were needy. So I
Hmm.
don't know if at times they're even really talking about math because
Hmm.
it might only be like a 2-second interaction.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to know, I want you to know that this is your classroom and that you do have the permission to make it flow the way that you want to. Yes, the district has these expectations, but if you're meeting your students' needs, I totally support you in that and what you do with that also. I think the only thing, if you want to make sure the one thing I observed is you stuck up front a lot. And so if you circulate the room more, I noticed you did that more in their independent work, which is fantastic. But I'm just noticing that when you're sticking to that board area and just to kind of maybe look, and we can look at the video too and break that cycle of like just sticking to that front of room, I think might be an area that we could improve on. I know that was really hard for me when I was teaching in the classroom. Because everything's up front, right? You want to stay there, you got to be there, you got to be reactive. So that's something that we can look at also. I'm just curious, where would you like us to go for next steps then also?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I need to consider is that wait time. And so
Okay.
any ideas around how to make myself, I think part of the thing that comes with that, it's like I don't circulate the room because I may be managing behaviors and stuff
Okay.
like that. So maybe
Okay.
that's a piece of this. It's like, how
Mm-hmm.
can I continue to manage behaviors if I see something that's happening over here?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the next step. Like, what really is my role when I do like turn-in talks,
Mm-hmm.
beyond just circulating the room? Like, should I be talking to two students? Should I
Yeah.
be like ignoring behavior? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Really, that behavior management to support
Okay.
like wait time and talk time in the classroom.
Okay. So do you want me to gather some resources and some stuff that other teachers have done regarding that just to get to you then? Is
Yeah,
that something you want to do? Okay.
yeah, and I also think if there's, anyone in the building that's doing this really well, that might be helpful for me as well to just kind of see it in person.
Absolutely. I can come cover a class and you can go watch them. That would be fantastic. I would love to do that. The other thing that I'm thinking is that what, so we talked about wait time, we talked about the circulating the room, managing behaviors. Is there anything else that you need from me that I could help you support on besides those strategies?
No, I think it was just really important to hear you
Yeah.
say that like um we're here together and that like the district is giving me things to do and I have the
Mm-hmm.
permission to
Mm-hmm.
students' needs. I think that's just really affirming, especially for me, being like a newer teacher to hear. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Well, I'll pop into your room a couple other times after I get that stuff to you, and then we can just have like a little chit chat, little check in to see how things are going. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Have a fabulous day. Bye.
Bye. My
All
lady.
right, well,
Try not to.
well done. No, no. Oh my God, you guys, that was so good. What a delight. You guys are both pros. All right, so oh my God, that was so fun. Amanda, nice
Yeah.
job. Um,
Okay.
uh, like you're just so naturally and authentically conversational. I was just thinking about
Mm,
our conversation earlier that like I don't know, like sorry to personalize it, but like my coaching role, sometimes I like try to like be objective and I'm like, oh, am I coming across as authentic? Like, and you just so naturally do. There were so many times when
oh,
you're like, oh yeah, like I remember when I was a teacher and um, asked about her kid at the beginning and slowing it down just a scotch. Like your language was like sort of so kind of warm and kind of non-confrontational and casual. I thought that was so great.
Okay, good.
Um, you gave a lot of specific examples of things that you noticed. You talked about knowing the students. I thought that was like an interesting piece of evidence. Oh, yeah, like I know which kids we're talking about here. You mentioned that there were EL students in the room. You talked about observing the teacher being in front of the room, a lot. And the juiciest bits were like when Amanda wanted to talk about wait time, and then Ashley like was like, nah, we're not going to talk about that, right? And I was like, oh, where is this going to go, right? And then you tried to kind of like redirect it there, and Ashley was not going to like let you take it there, and you kind of allowed yourself to not take it there. I loved Ashley, the district. That was great.
hmm
And then but, then a little curveball at the end there when like, whatever, the focus on wait time, Amanda, that you kind of tried to instill did wiggle itself into the teacher's brain. And then that came around on next steps. I felt like Ashley knew that, all right, like I was trying to avoid this, but probably if I'm and I think that speaks to the teacher. I mean, we're not evaluating the teacher, right? But like, if I were evaluating the teacher, then they came around to like taking the feedback that was being given by like finally gesturing to the idea of it. And Amanda, I think that you kind of guided it that way and, offered, oh yeah, I'll come in and sub your class so you can go see somebody, right? Like, that kind of offering next step kind of support I thought was well just very natural. So I thought well done and whatever challenging conversations you have in the future, near future, I think that you're well equipped for. So
I'll let you know next week.
Yeah.
We'll see how the next one goes. So
Yeah. All right. Shall
thank you
we
guys. I appreciate your
jump back
feedback.
in? Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, I
Are you
know.
got the recording? You're on
After,
recording duty?
yeah, I'll
Okay.
stop the recording.